Gillette is telling men to be better as part of an ad targeting toxic masculinity. The blowback has been intense. This is America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Be sure to subscribe and turn that notification bell on, because on America Uncovered, fake news gets real. By now, I'm sure you've heard something about this recent Gillette ad. It shows a father breaking up a fight.
It's not how we treat each other, okay?
A friend stopping a friend from sexually harassing a woman.
Bro, not cool, not cool.
And Terry Crews testifying to Congress that we need to hold men accountable.
Men need to hold other men accountable.
Especially for how they smell.
Old Spice Buddies break and change a regular smelling man into a man who smells like power!
Magically, his boxers did not blow off. Now, respecting women and not sexually harassing them, all that sounds good. So why has there been such an incredible backlash against Gillette?
Gillette, a company supported by men for over a century, debuted a new ad crapping all over the very same men.
This morning, some men are dumping their Gillette products in the trash, posting photos and videos online with the hashtag boycott Gillette.
First of all, I just want to say I grew this before the Gillette ad came out. It is not a political statement. Just a thing of beauty. So, I really can't believe I need to talk about a commercial for razors on this show since, as Jessica Valenti, writing for Medium, says, Gillette is really only interested in using feminist rhetoric to make more money. But this is the cultural zeitgeist, so here we go. Toxic masculinity. What is it exactly? Well, let's go to the internet's most trusted source for the cultural zeitgeist, UrbanDictionary.com. Maybe cover your eyes. I'll tell you when it's safe to look. Okay, the top definition for toxic masculinity is something that doesn't exist. Very helpful, Urban Dictionary, thank you. But toxic masculinity does exist according to the American Psychological Association. They recently released these guidelines addressing boys and men. It says, conforming to traditional masculinity ideology has been shown to limit males' psychological development, constrain their behavior, result in gender role strain and gender role conflict. It also links traditional masculinity ideology to sexism, violence, and mental health issues. That all sounds pretty bad. But what is traditional masculinity ideology? The APA defines it as anti-femininity, achievement, eschewal of the appearance of weakness, and adventure, risk, and violence. The APA also says that traditional masculinity ideology encourages men to adopt an approach to sexuality that emphasizes promiscuity, and that traditional masculinity ideology discourages men from being intimate with others. Now, these things sound pretty negative, but are they what most people would define as being traditional? In fact, historically speaking, things like increased sexual promiscuity and discouraging male intimacy are pretty modern. I mean, nothing says traditional masculine affection like cigars and man hugs. Also, cigarettes and man hugs. Okay, any kind of tobacco and man hugs. So when traditional masculinity is defined in a certain way, and then that term is taken out of context and called harmful, then that is misleading. But the Gillette ad correctly points out issues like sexual harassment, which is a problem. So are more serious behaviors like sexual assault. But it's hard to put a number to that, and some studies have used questionable methods to get an answer. But for the sake of argument, let's use this 2012 CDC report that says 1 in every 3 women in America has been sexually assaulted at some point in her life. Let's just assume that's true for a moment. If that really is the case, that 1 in every 3 women has been sexually assaulted, is that a sign that there is something fundamentally toxic about masculinity? No. A typical woman comes into contact with thousands of men during her lifetime. It only takes a tiny number of men to be that guy for the 1 in 3 statistic to be accurate. For example, if 1% of men each sexually assault at least 33 women in their lifetime, that's enough for 1 in 3 women to have experienced sexual assault. That is not a reason to say masculinity is the problem. In fact, you could just as easily make a case for toxic femininity. The Gillette ad shows boys bullying other boys, which people might call toxic masculinity. Well, there are psychological terms that describe the same behavior in girls and women. According to this study in the journal Development and Learning Organizations, 70% of women in the workplace have been bullied or harassed by a female boss, something called the queen bee syndrome. Other researchers have uncovered what's being called mean girls syndrome, which, if I hadn't read that article, I'd just assume it means we should all be looking to Lindsay Lohan for life advice. Don't, by the way. And despite perceptions that men are the sole perpetrators of sexual assault, there are some surprising statistics. In 2010, the CDC created a new category of sexual violence called being made to penetrate. When that was factored in, the rates of non-consensual sexual contact were basically the same between men and women. And an analysis of Bureau of Justice statistics found that 46% of male victims of sexual assault reported a female perpetrator. These two studies found that 40% of people reporting serious partner violence are men. So if women can also bully other women, and women can sexually assault men and be violent towards men, is toxic femininity the real problem? No. That's also the wrong way to look at it. The truth is, men do treat women poorly. Women also treat men poorly. Women also treat women poorly, and men also treat men poorly. And while I'm tempted to say the real issue might just be toxic humanity, that's not the case either. The truth is, throughout human history, men and women have been literally breaking their bodies to support their spouses and children. Love is the real story of the vast majority of men and women, not oppression. Unless you're talking about, like, Stalin. Nevertheless, men today do have a problem. Men kill themselves more than any other demographic. It's being called a silent epidemic. Most people in prison are men. Most people living on the streets are men. Most victims of violent crime are men. Boys are doing worse in school. And all the while being told men are toxic and the future does not belong to them. Which is ridiculous. The future doesn't belong to one gender. It belongs to the machines. But some argue that it's actually a lack of traditional masculinity that's the problem. The Gillette ad shows fathers teaching their sons how to behave. That is actually a very traditional concept of masculinity. But today, according to the Pew Research Center, fewer than half of U.S. kids younger than 18 years of age are living in a home with two married heterosexual parents in their first marriage. 24 million U.S. children younger than 18 are living with an unmarried parent. Most are living with a solo mother. So in their formative years, a huge number of boys have no male role model at home. Then they go to school, where more than 3/4 of all teachers in kindergarten through high school are women. Imagine if a girl growing up was surrounded mostly by men and had no meaningful relationship with an adult female for the first part of her life. I don't think you could blame the effects on toxic femininity. So yes, Gillette may be right in a way. Men do need to be better. But it's not because there's something fundamentally wrong with traditional masculinity. It's because men need more positive masculinity. That's why I support an organization called the Mankind Project. For decades, they've provided a community for men based on the mature, sacred masculine. And their new warrior training adventure recreates the lost art of boyhood to manhood rite of passage. I've been on it, and it was the basis of the phenomenal documentary, The Work. They go to the maximum security Folsom prison and bring a whole lot of healing to men society gave up on. You can learn more about it at mankindproject.org. Link is below. So what do you think of the Gillette ad and toxic masculinity? Leave your comments below. And please know that we rely on the support of viewers like you, because YouTube demonetizes videos that are too controversial. Head over to patreon.com/AmericaUncovered and pledge $1 or more per episode so we can keep making great content like this. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.